Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. I have not yet finished all my videos for the month of August, for wrapping up the month of August, but I'm starting one for September because it's Shorty September and I'm focusing on short books. I'm filming this on September 5 and I have finished 4 books and I'm thinking, okay, if I wait until the end of the month or the middle of the month, I will have just way too many books to talk about, so I might as well talk about them, well, as I go, as I read them. So here are the first 4 books that I read in September. The first one that I read is a Brother Catfile mystery. It is The Sanctuary Sparrow. So this is obviously an omnibus collection. There are books 7, 8, and 9 in this. I read book number 7, so the first of the 3 books in this omnibus. And it is set in 1140. It opens with the brothers at prayer at night, somewhere in the middle of the night. And there's a ruckus outside, a bit like there's a hunt going on, and then somebody barges in the church claiming sanctuary because there's a mob trying to kill him. And that little, it looks like a little boy. It's not so much a little boy as a young man. He looks like a teenager. And he is a juggler, and he had been hired to entertain at a wedding, and a crime happened at the wedding, and of course the crowd is blaming him. So he is asking for sanctuary, and of course Brother Catfile will feel compelled to investigate, and that's what happens. So I really liked this book. I saw the ending coming quite soon, but it's not necessarily a problem in Brother Catfile, because it's a bit about the puzzle, but it's also about the life of the people in the story, of the characters in the story. It's really about life in the Middle Ages in a way. So I didn't mind knowing or figuring out quite early what was going on and what happened. I enjoyed it very much. And Brother Catfile in this book does not necessarily go out of his way to ask questions. The mystery is revealed by the characters going through their daily life, and things are happening, obviously, and it's a little like this. The mysteries unfold through the ordinary lives of characters. So it's not in your face sleuthing. So I kind of like that sort of thing in historical mysteries. So I really liked it. And then I went for another historical novel, this time in the romance genre. This is Powder and Patch by Georgette. In this book, we are again in a small town in England, this time in the middle of the 18th century, so the 1750s approximately, at the time where powdered wigs were very much the fashion. So we meet a few households in that village, upper class of course, and there's a young lady in there who is just back from boarding school, finishing school, something like that, and she's very fashionable. And she kind of has feelings for a neighbor, the son of a gentleman living somewhat next door, living in the same village. But that young man just doesn't care for fine things. He's a gentleman farmer, but more farmer than gentleman. He doesn't care for fine clothing. He doesn't care for pretty words. He doesn't care for any of these things. And the young lady is teasing him about that a lot, and she would like him to be a bit more sophisticated. And the father of the young man agrees. He would like to see his son much more gentleman-like behavior, much more upper-class behavior. So they sort of conspire to send him away to make him realize that the fault of his ways. And that's what happens. He goes away and he acquires all the fineries of upper class, the language, the hairstyle, the clothing, and all of that. And when he comes back, the plan backfires a little bit because father and girlfriend don't quite recognize the young man anymore. Well, they recognize it's him, but it's not the same personality anymore, and now they're perhaps wondering what have we done. So it's a really lovely story. I very much liked it. I have to say that it took me a little while to get in the story because at the beginning there was this thing going on. Well, this thing, it's hard to describe. It's the narration. I felt like the narrator was very distant from the character. It was like there was this voice saying, here are the characters, here's what they're doing, here's what they are thinking, and the characters were behaving according to the narrative voice. It's not so much because the characters were behaving in a certain way that the narrator had to tell it. It's was like, because the narrator said it, then the characters did it. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it more than that, except to say that there was this, that the narration appeared to be very distant. But then we got more into the heads of the characters, closer to the story, and then it became much better. So it didn't last very long, perhaps 30 pages or something. Yeah, so it took me a little while, but I liked it very much. And then I, again, changed style completely. I went for contemporary literature. I went for A Man Asleep by this man, Georges Perec. So obviously this is, again, an omnibus. I did not read the entire 1,000 pages of this. 1,400 pages of this. No, I read about 100 pages of this, A Man Asleep. So this novel is quite short. It's the second novel by Perec, and it is written in the second person. So you did this, you did that, you do this, you do that, and I liked it. Very often I don't like that. I feel that it's gimmicky, but perhaps with Perec I'm willing to accept a bit of gimmick, because that's the way he liked to write. He liked to write within constraints. So in this novel we follow a single character. There's just one. Is he named? I'm not even sure he's named. But we follow this character, and one day he wakes up and he's supposed to go to an exam. He's a student, he's 25, and he just doesn't go. And he sort of takes the decision to become master of the universe, master of his world, by withdrawing from it, by trying to have, by avoiding having any needs, by avoiding having any wants, any impulses, any decision. He tries to give up any decision making in his life. So basically he is somewhat erasing himself. Now the obvious parallel to that is Bartleby, the character by Melville, and there is a clear, direct allusion to Bartleby in the book. But there's a difference. Bartleby doesn't move. Bartleby is really making himself small in a way. But this character in this book is full of energy, full of restless energy, I would say, because he spends his days pacing and walking in Paris. He goes here and there, and of course Perec enjoys naming a whole bunch of places, bridges, buildings, neighborhoods. So we're sort of visiting Paris a little bit. So this character who wants in a way to be completely distanced and detached from the world is full of energy. So of course it will not go as planned. So there's not a lot of action. It's very contemplative in a way, because we watch this character going here and there and trying not to make any decision, but deciding not to make any decisions. So it's a decision in and of itself. So yeah, it's a bit weird, like everything Perec does, but it's well written, and yeah, I enjoyed it once again. And then the fourth book that I read, if I can, yeah, I'm going to call it a book. And once again, it's not the entire thing. It's just one. It's a Greek play. I read The Persians by this one here. How do you say that? Aeschylus. I think it's pronounced Aeschylus. In French, we say Aeschylus, but I think it's Aeschylus in English. So anyway, he was Greek. The play that I read, The Persians, is probably the oldest Greek play surviving. So contrary to most other Greek plays, it is not set in mythical times. It is not about gods, about mythical historical figures. It is about events that happened not long before the play was set. It is about a battle between the Persians and the Greeks, a battle in which Aeschylus was part. So Aeschylus did take part in that battle of, again, I don't know how to pronounce it, Salamis, which was both naval battle and on the ground battle. And we are on the side of the Persians. So it's set in front of the hall of some sort of palace of the Persians. There's a choir of old men who are supposed to be the wise men of Persia, the advisor basically to the king and queen. Then we meet the older queen, that is the wife of King Darius, who is dead, and the king who started the war is King, again, I don't know how to pronounce the name, Xerxes. Xerxes. Let's go for that. So this young king brought his entire army to Greece and basically lost it all. So this play, as opposed to the others that I've read in the book, I cannot say that I liked it as much because the characters are never, basically rarely talk to one another. We have the chorus of older men. We have a messenger bringing news about what happened in Greece. We have Queen Atossa, who is the mother of Xerxes and the widow of Darius. We have the ghost of Darius and we have Xerxes. However, the only two characters who talk to one another, of the three not living characters, but the three characters with a name, so the ghost of Darius, Atossa, and Xerxes, only Atossa and Darius talk to one another. Xerxes doesn't talk to anyone. He appears at the very end, lamenting his loss, his failure, having sort of lost everything, but he's talking to the choir, to the chorus. He is not talking to anyone else. Same thing, Atossa, for the most part, is talking to the chorus. And then the messenger is relating his message, but he does not really interact. He doesn't have a name. He does not necessarily have feelings. He's not there to convey personality. He's there to convey information. So it makes for a very impersonal play in a way. So the chorus gives a lot of information, then the messenger gives a lot of information. Atossa laments, yes, to the chorus, but at the same time to herself. There's King Darius. He is talking more to the other person on the stage, to the people on the stage. And then at the end, there's Xerxes, who's basically talking to himself, well, to the chorus, but also to himself. So it doesn't go as deep in the psyche as other Greek plays, which is one of the great pleasures of Greek plays, I think, is to go to in depth in the mind of the characters. It's less perhaps grandiose than other Greek plays, so I'm glad I read it, but I don't think it's going to be one of my favorites. So that was the fourth book that I've read in 5 days. Now I know I'm not going to keep up with that pace, if only because I have a book that is about 500 pages to read for the BookTube prize. So I know I will not be able to keep that pace. It would be very unlikely that I end up having read 24 books in September. Well, who knows? Because these Greek plays, they're about 50 pages each. I still have 12 to read, so but I want to keep some for later. I don't want to eat them all right now. So yeah, we'll see. So that is the beginning of my Shorty September. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine.